Hi everybody!
Hi!
Welcome to our mini masterclass on how you can permaculture your small space or rental. I'm Nick Ritter.
And I'm Kirsten Bradley. Before we get started, I need to acknowledge that we are on Milkwood country today, coming at you from southern Luchuia to Tasmania. The Milkwood people have been stewards of the beautiful land where we get to live for over 40,000 years of continuous stewardship, and we'd like to acknowledge their elders past and present and any other Indigenous elders who might be with us today. Now, I can see heaps of you coming into the chat and saying hi, hello. I might go and get into the chat with you, and so I can chat to you there, and I'm going to leave Nick to it. Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, I'll see you.
Hey, bye. In this masterclass, we're going to show you how you can use permaculture thinking and techniques to make your small space or rental a place of true abundance for you, even on a tight budget. By the end of our time together, you'll be brimming with ideas to get started with growing, doing and making your space somewhere that you'll truly love to live in. As an extra motivation, if you stay with us till the end, we'll send you a link to a guide to all our strategies for doing permaculture in small spaces and rentals. And we'll also give you an exclusive opportunity to join our permaculture living course, which is open for bookings today with a very special masterclass only discount. Okay, before we begin, let's create some quiet space for what you're going to learn here. Please turn off all your distractions, mute your phone, close your other browser windows, shut the door, put the goat out, or whatever you need to do to make some quiet space so you can focus on what we're about to share with you. Are you all set? Great, let's go. Here's a quick how-to to get us started. We're going to show you how to grow sprouts in a few quick steps, and then once this masterclass is over, you can get started on this or one of the other tips we'll talk about yourself. You're going to need a few things. First, some alfalfa seeds like this, some kind of jar, a bowl like this one, some tulle fabric, this is just curtain fabric that we got from the op shop, and a rubber band. Now, I know this is really simple stuff and you're probably doing plenty of amazing things like this already, but I think it's important to take a moment to recognise that it's the little everyday things like this that actually add up to make a permaculture life. Sometimes we get so caught up in planning the big action, the big design, that we lose sight of the fact that it's our everyday habits that matter the most. So growing sprouts is a really simple way to add some super quick, fresh, homegrown greens into your diet. And it's really easy. All we need to do is take those alfalfa seeds and put them in your jar. Then pour some water over the top of them. Just about half a jar full is fine. And then we're just going to put the fabric over the top and leave them for a couple of hours so that they can absorb all that moisture and actually start to germinate. After they've been sitting there for a few hours, carefully tip the water out. And then this is where that bowl comes in. Just turn them upside down in your bowl and sit them on the bench so that they can drain freely and they've got lots of air around them. Now, for the next couple of days, a couple of times a day, just take them and pour some more water in, swirl it around, drain it back out and put it back in the bowl. And presto, in a couple of days' time, you'll have amazing fresh alfalfa sprouts like this. Yum. So, if you only do one thing after this masterclass, do this. It's the quickest way to grow some fresh greens right on your kitchen bench. No garden required. Thanks again for joining us today. You're in the right place if you're looking for growing solutions in a rental or a temporary property that are efficient and don't cost the earth. You're in the right place if you live in a small space without a garden as such and you want to develop meaningful strategies to create an abundant life and connect with your community. You're in the right place if you don't have a lot of time, but you want to develop a home space that nourishes you and takes your dreams for simple living forward, little step by little step. No matter which of these ideas you identify with strongly, no matter what your motivation for being here, we support you in your desire to live more authentically, more deeply and closer to your ecosystem, no matter where you live. and we're going to show you a whole lot of ways to start doing just that. So, rental space? No garden? Short on time? Which one of these speaks to you the most? We'd love to know a little more about you. Let us know in the chat. So, where do we fit into all this? Well, firstly, Kirsten and I are a family. We have a 12-year-old called Asher, and we bought our first home down here in southern Tasmania, Lutruwita, last year during lockdown. Before that, we were lucky enough to spend 3 years living on Meliadora, the iconic permaculture property in central Victoria, with Sue Dennett and David Holmgren, the co-originator of permaculture. We are full-time permaculture teachers, and we've been doing this for nearly 15 years. Now we have a team of people who help us support our students and develop new courses. But really, we're happiest in the garden growing veggies or tending our beehives. During those 15 years, we've stewarded thousands and thousands of students towards lives that are more abundant by sharing permaculture thinking and design, regenerative agriculture techniques, and also specific skills like market gardening, mushroom cultivation, natural beekeeping, fermentation, and much, much, much more. But the thing that we really teach, which underpins all of this, is actually mindset training to help people move towards the life that they want while creating an abundant and resilient home, community, and ecosystem as they go. So that's what we really do. So, what is permaculture? Well, permaculture is a framework of thinking tools. It's a design system that uses patterns and principles from nature and brings those patterns into your everyday, disguised as simple strategies for figuring out how to live life well, while cultivating healthy futures for our community and also our planet. Some of our work is helping folks apply permaculture thinking to large-scale public projects. For example, we're currently working with the new Powerhouse Museum project in Parramatta. Yes, that's the one that just went underwater during the flooding, to help them to include a rooftop permaculture garden. But to tell you the truth, one of the biggest opportunities that we have to change the world is by changing what we do in our homes. And that's not even the half of it. Permaculture thinking can be used at any scale to make life better. No garden required. Can you imagine what it would feel like to be surrounded by homemade goodness and be connected to community that could nourish you each and every day? By using permaculture thinking and techniques, you can create exactly that goodness and nourishment while also lessening your footprint, living more simply, and having a positive impact on the planet. In this masterclass, we're going to take you through 6 steps to help you get started using permaculture in your small space or rental. Firstly, we'll encourage you to set a goal. Make that goal a habit and then track your progress. Then, we're going to show you how using principles-based approach can be a great way to figure out what to do first and take things step by step to get where you want to go without the overwhelm. Then, we'll share some foolproof strategies for getting food growing in your small spaces or rental, even if you've got no garden at all. Then, we're going to get you inspired to reach out beyond your home and find ways to cultivate community where you live in a way that nourishes both you and your ecosystem. Next, we'll guide you through a bunch of ways that we can help you to achieve your goals. And finally, we're going to answer your questions live. So ask anything you want in the chat from here on in, and we'll do our best to help you out. Kirsten and our team will also be answering questions throughout in the chat. So ask away. So, step 1 is to set a goal, make it a habit, and then track your progress. A lot of people start taking positive action in their life, but then they get sidetracked and end up feeling like they're not getting anywhere at all. Let's face it, there are a lot of distractions out there. There's a lot of people attempting to convince you to buy more stuff or upgrade the stuff that you do have. And besides, there are so many time-consuming actions that you end up feeling guilty for not doing when you're not even sure they're worth doing in the first place. Even if you do end up choosing something positive to do, it's really hard to make it stick. And sometimes you end up going back to your old ways, We've been there too. So you've all got these things you want to do to make life better. And we're going to show you a whole bunch more today. But which ones will turn out to be the things that work best for you? It's hard to know before you begin. So, what if you knew all the actions you were taking were working together to make your life and your community better? This is where setting a personal goal comes in. Just start with one, that's plenty. Your personal goal might be to get fit, or eat more homegrown produce, or lower your heating costs. Now, for all those new actions and ideas you're thinking about, what if you check them against your personal goal before deciding to commit to a new action? This way, you can tell if spending time on this thing will take you where you truly want to go. It may take a little while to sort out your personal goal, but we have an excellent, well-developed process for you to follow so you can create your own personal goal statement. This is something that comes from a holistic decision-making framework, and we've found that it's a critical step in helping you move in the right direction for your personal context. By clearly articulating your personal goal, you create a powerful tool that will help you make decisions about how to live your life. There's a process and worksheet for this in the guide at the end of this class. Once you have a goal statement, you can start to choose the right actions for you, and then you can turn those actions into positive habits. By taking little regular steps that become habits, you can end up transforming your life. Habits are truly powerful things. It might be as simple as committing to take your lunch every day rather than buying it. Or it could be a commitment to sharing homemade pizza with your teenager every Friday. It might be taking up the hobby of making probiotic drinks like water kefir or kombucha. Or it could be as simple as committing to keep a bucket in your shower to catch and reuse some of your grey water. There are things you can take away today that you can make habits that will build up into a permaculture life. As you commit to taking up each positive habit, track your progress by making an action plan. An action plan is like a checklist of life-changing actions or habits. As you mark off each completed action, you create a positive feedback loop that rewards you for making that positive change. We know this works because our students tell us it works. Take Tanya, for example. This is what she told us a few months ago. I was working 24/7 while serving ready-to-go food to my family. Then at one point I thought, how crazy is that? I try to inspire others for a healthier lifestyle but fail to implement it in my own family or for myself. The day I signed up for Milkwood's Permaculture Living course and did my first lesson, everything changed. I still teach exercise as a way to stay healthy, but now it's along the lines of community, mindfulness and health. And I haven't looked back once. Loving our new life. Now, goals, habits and action plans are great, but how does this all fit into a permaculture life? How do you make sure they align with permaculture values? Well, we've found the easiest way to keep moving forward is with a principle-based approach, and permaculture principles can be super useful for this task. When faced with thousands of options, we often hear people say, I'm overloaded, there's so many things I should be doing. This is where permaculture really comes to the fore. Permaculture principles act like filters that help you reduce all the options down to a few things that'll have a real impact. Now, there are quite a few permaculture principles, 12 of them in fact. Don't worry, we'll give you an outline of these principles in the guide that you'll receive after this mini masterclass. There's so much inspiration here that you can draw from principles like observe and interact, obtain a yield, use and value renewable resources and services, design from patterns to details, use small and slow solutions, use edges and value the marginal. Then there's the fun part, using these principles to inform your decision making. To us, the strength of these principles and the permaculture approach in general is that unlike specific solutions, these principles are powerful thinking tools to help you make change, both at your kitchen sink and at a community or even a local government level too. And because they're principles and not rules, they are super flexible and can help you adapt to the continuous change that we all experience. We use them as a framework for our permaculture living course, and we stick them up around our home and at work to remind us of the approaches that actually work. Now, some of you may be thinking, that's great, but it's all very theoretical. I want something more hands-on. Well, that's why the next step is growing some food. Thinking tools are important, and there's no point taking action unless that action does some good. But at some point, you have to start doing something. But why is there such a focus on growing food in permaculture? Indeed, permaculture is often thought of as a way of doing gardening. There's some truth to that, but I think it's more accurate to say that gardening is a way of doing permaculture. Permaculture is much broader than just gardening. Somebody once described permaculture as a revolution disguised as gardening because it provides a framework that can help us make decisions about all aspects of our lives. That said, producing your own food is one of the most life-affirming things you can do, and at the same time, it gives us so many opportunities to put the permaculture principles into action. So it's no wonder that people make that connection. Growing food is so good for the body and for the soul. People say gardening is like therapy, but you get homegrown tomatoes thrown in. It's a great way to connect with the ecosystem around you, your community, and even your kids. What's not to love? You might feel like you don't have enough space, or that you'll only be in the place for a little while, but we have a bunch of tried and true strategies for producing food quickly in tight spots. Let's go through some of our top strategies now. There'll be links and resources to help you do all of these in the guide too. Firstly, containers work great for growing veggies. You don't need space in the ground. With containers, any location that gets a few hours of direct light can be used to grow veggies, and you can take them with you when you move. Larger containers do work better though, because they provide a more stable environment for the roots of the plants. There's less temperature variation and they don't dry out so quick. Try for 300 millimeters or 12 inches deep, but anything more than about half that will work in a pinch. Just fill them with good quality potting mix and keep them fertile by adding compost, worm castings, a complete organic fertiliser, or a combination of those things. Containers with flat vertical sides can be packed tightly together to provide more soil volume in small areas. So recycled plastic tubs or even styrofoam fruit boxes can work very well. But be careful not to let any styrofoam get away from you and into our waterways. Secondly, concentrate on the plants that produce the highest value as quickly as possible. If a plant has to produce a seed, a fruit, or a bulb to be worthwhile, it will take a long time and might be wasting your valuable space. If you can eat the leaves, then you can have a harvest as soon as the plant is growing. Leafy green salad vegetables are the first thing you should grow. They are so good for you. Store-bought ones are so expensive and they deteriorate in the fridge so quickly, so fresh off the plant is definitely best. Try growing lettuce, spinach, silver beet, or my absolute favourite, mizuna. It's like the Godzilla of salad greens. You can grow them as microgreens for a really quick harvest. It's the next step up from sprouting that we did earlier, and it can be done in a really shallow pots or even seedling trays. The other go-to type of plant to grow in small spaces are herbs. Nothing beats fresh basil on a pizza or fresh parsley on just about anything. Again, because you can harvest their leaves as soon as they start growing, they give you a return really, really quickly. The last big strategy we've got for you for growing veggies in small spaces is to get vertical. Vertical or wall gardens can work really well, but they can also be complex and expensive to do right. So an easier option is to grow a climbing plant, like a tomato even, up a trellis. This works really well for some of those plants that do take a bit longer, like tomatoes, cucumbers, or climbing beans. Another option is to hang pots from above and let those climbing plants trail down. But you can use hanging pots for just about anything, especially like strawberries or herbs. They don't take up any ground space at all. Now, if, on the other hand, you do have some lawn available at a rental place, you might be able to go a quick garden in another way. You might be able to dig up some of the lawn for a temporary veggie patch. There's no harm in asking, just be prepared to dig it up and re-turf it when you leave. You'd be amazed at what you can grow in one summer. We've made single season veggie patches in rental properties a few times and never regretted it. Sometimes you might have to return it to the state you found it, but we've had landlords who loved the improvements and wanted to keep the gardens for the next tenants too. But if you don't have access to natural light, there are other ways that you can produce some food in small spaces too. How about growing mushrooms? It's surprisingly easy to cultivate mushrooms at home. You can grow them on waste products in recycled food grade buckets, so they really achieve those permaculture principles of obtain a yield and produce no waste. We grow them in a spare shower cubicle at our place, but you can rig up a little grow area to do it just about anywhere. They don't need mushroom at all. But seriously, this is our favourite way to grow high quality protein in small spaces. So I could go on about it for hours, but I can't because we haven't got that long. So we'll include a heap of resources for growing those in the guide. Now, if you live in an even smaller space, there are still some ways that you can produce really healthy food quickly for next to no cost at all. You can learn to brew your own probiotic drinks like tibikos, jun, kombucha, or milk kefir. This totally counts as growing something because you're cultivating biology to produce delicious and nutritious results. Learning to make any of these fermented drinks on a regular basis makes a fantastic habit. And this is a habit that will keep your gut healthy, save you a heap of money, and taste absolutely fantastic. If you don't have any space to do this kind of thing, then get out of your home completely. Forage some wild food. The wild food is all around us. It's under our feet, along the path edges and next to the highway. It's in the sand dunes, all over our favourite park and down nearly every back lane. There's food out the back of the doctor's surgery, hanging over the fence. It's even between the cracks in the bricks of our patios. There are so many opportunities, from edible weeds to blackberries and elderberries, from mushrooms to seaweed. We just need to learn how to see it. So, are you already growing some food in or around your home? Maybe some herbs or something else? Let us know in the chat. Getting out and learning what to look for when it comes to wild food brings us to the next big step in our process for implementing permaculture when you live in a small space or are renting. And that is step 4. Connect with your neighbourhood and community. Getting to know your neighbourhood, finding new ways to connect with the place where you live, is a powerful way to create community, sometimes with unexpectedly delightful results. Because the truth is, you are not alone, even though it sometimes might feel like it. Connections await you in all kinds of ways. Worldwide, the ecological sustainability and social justice movement has become the largest political movement in human history. There are hundreds of millions of people who are making positive change in their homes and their communities and rising up to demand changes from our leaders. Permaculture provides us with a framework to make this change meaningful. Permaculture thinking is a toolbox of powerful everyday tools for reconnecting with our place and our ecosystem. There are some simple actions you can take to help connect you to your community. Find people who share your values. Here's a few ideas for connecting with your neighbourhood and community that you may not have thought of. First, learn to identify 5 useful plants where you live. They might be weeds in the sidewalk. They might be bushes hanging over the back fence of the laneway. They might be trees in your nearest park. What can you do with them? Can you eat them or use them? If you find they're not useful, it's still a valuable process. You're learning your ecosystem's markers. These ID skills will help deepen your knowledge of climate, soil, and place. Second, identify something you have in abundance to share and figure out how to share it. Maybe it's lemons, rosemary, or bay leaves. Maybe it's your time. Maybe it's a strong back or typing skills. Maybe it's your computer savvy or a casserole or scooter fixing skills. How can you turn this skill into something you can share? Maybe you can volunteer, lean over the fence and meet your neighbour, Or maybe you could just put a box of excess homegrown produce out by the front gate with a free for all sign on it. Third, take the time to learn your local waterways. This is an artwork of all the rivers of the USA by the Far Woods Collective. How much do you know about your closest waterway? Even if it's just a creek or a drain that used to be a creek, where does your closest watercourse run from and to? Does it have a name? Or if it doesn't now, did it once? What does this mean for where your street's stormwater ends up? By learning our waterways, we start to live within and take better care of our ecosystem and therefore community, even if it's just picking up rubbish in our street's gutters to save it from the river. Every small action counts. Lastly, do you know where your closest community garden is? Is there an opportunity to help or get a plot of your own? If you can't go during their open hours, how else can you contribute in a regular way? Just going to a community garden space regularly is useful. There's so much to learn from the plants and pollinators there. It plants you in a place. Taking up one or more actions like these will slowly but surely begin to help you find your community. What's interesting is that we've found that as you commit to action, like write it down and commit to doing it, you are much more likely to actually do that thing and do it really well. We know this because this is a technique that we use all the time with our students. So we've got the data to prove it. Each week throughout our Permaculture Living course, we ask our students to commit to taking one or more actions. It might be something like learning about your local waterway or doing a no waste challenge or starting a herb garden. These get added to their personal action plan. Later, when they actually do the thing they've committed to, they can come back and mark the action as complete. Over the last 12 months, the students of our Permaculture Living course have not just committed to taking action, but have actually completed over 12,000 actions to make their communities a better place. So now, I have a question for you. What does a pathway to permaculture life look like for you?